Okay, I was gonna take a video, but I look like a freaking bomber or something. I just need to dye my hair and my roots are growing. So, yeah. Guess I could lose the sunglasses. Anyways, wanted to touch on a subject. I have to have these because I don't know why my phone is ghetto and my phone is old, and if I don't do these, then my voice goes in and out. But wanted to touch on the subject about addiction. I had a conversation with my mom the other day, and I think that addiction has a lot to do with something that you have not, something that has been, you know, a traumatic situation for you or something that you haven't dealt with. And I believe that the reason why people take drugs and use drugs is because it numbs them, it numbs the pain that they feel and have felt and can't get over. You know, something that hurt them, maybe in their childhood, and it's just gotten worse through their adulthood. Something that they didn't understand, whatever the case may be, whether it be abuse, being molested, you know, being an orphan, being an orphan, being in and out of, you know, homes, getting tossed around, your parents not, parents have alcoholic parents or have, drug addict parents, whatever the case may be. But I feel that the reason why people take drugs and to continue them, I think that when they first do a drug, it's obviously just curiosity, and for fun. But I believe that when they experience it, it numbs the pain that they feel inside, of whatever it is that's tormenting them. And I believe that that's why they continue doing them on the daily basis, because they're trying to, mask the pain. And I really don't think it's the drugs that people are addicted to. I think they're addicted to the numbness. They don't, until you face what is going on inside, and until you talk about it, get help for it, or just expel it, get it out of your system. And gosh, I don't even know, like, how, I guess I'm on the camera, so I'm being a little nervous. But this thing that I'm doing here right now, me just like talking about things, is kind of a healing process for me. I've come to a realization of that. It's healing for me, and hopefully I can reach out to some people, and it can, start a healing process for them. But I believe that if you hold things inside and you don't talk about what really bothers you, that is that's not good. You need to release whatever it is that's bothering you, and you need to just realize that it wasn't your fault, or if it was your fault, you need to realize that you'll never do something like that ever again. Forgive yourself and ask God for forgiveness, and then bury it, and then move forward, and just keep becoming a better person day to day. But you got to bury that. You got to expel it, deal with it, you know forgive yourself, or try to forgive whoever it is that did something to you, and just, talk about it, maybe, talking about it, and or even writing it down, singing about it, whatever it is. But get it out of you. Don't have it stay in you. And that's actually called shadow work. To just, you know, psychedelics, I don't really consider them as actual, like, you know, drugs are psychedelic, in the drug category. Yes, they are, but they are a different kind. They basically, you know, open up receptors, and I feel like they you know clear out some of that stuff that you have, clogged in and that you try to bury, and it basically, you lose your ego, and you see yourself on the outside looking in, and you realize the things that are wrong with you, and so you it comes to surface, is basically what I'm saying, and how it happens. And so you work on yourself. You're like, oh, I didn't realize that, that shows. I didn't realize that that issue that I've buried so deep is still there, because you see yourself from the outside, basically looking in. And I just I think that if people really faced whatever it is that they're bothered by, and I know that they're afraid of judgment, they're afraid of, you know, afraid of even bringing it back up, and bringing it to surface, when all these years they've been trying to just bury it. But until you realize that it's not your fault, or if it is your fault and you realize that you didn't know any better, and you realize that it was wrong, and you will never ever do that again, and you just, forgive yourself, and, ask God to forgive you, and you just move forward from that. And I think that's has a lot to do with why people take drugs, because I think they're just trying to mask whatever it is that's going on inside of them, and they're not ready to face their demons. And you got to face your demons to to get better. And I watch a lot of TED Talks, and there was this one lady in particular the other day that I was listening to, and she was a hospice nurse for like 40 years for veterans, that fought in World War I, World War II, and they were on their deathbed, and she said that, they would be like, she would ask if they were, if they would want to see family, or if they would want to see a priest. And this one particular person said, can I tell you something? And he said, how do you think of me as a person, and how can I, be accepted by God, knowing that I killed a lot of people out there in war. I saw people getting killed, and she said she just sat there and listened to him speak, and then she put her hand on his heart and said a prayer and said, God, please, please forgive this man for, basically doing what he needed to do. He was, a soldier, and what he was told to do. And he had always thought, he had held that inside. He couldn't forgive himself for that. And she sat there and said a long prayer with her hand on his heart and asked God for his forgiveness for him. And she said that afterwards he just had a really, really big smile. And she was just saying that, like, you know, if somebody had, if he had just said that, or some, and and been able to experience what had just happened 40 years prior, his life would have been not so tortured, you know, in his mind and in his soul. He wouldn't have lived such a, you know, tortured life in his head. And she said he smiled really big and said thank you, and she could instantly know that there was a relief. And she said he would look like he was just, his whole soul was shining. And you know, the next day he passed away. And and I think that that's what a lot of this pain that everybody deals with is they just mask it and don't want to deal with it. And I'm speaking from personal experience, you know, things that happen. You're lucky you got through it and over it, and it's in the past, and all you're like, I just don't. But you really need to just forgive yourself and ask God for forgiveness, and that will definitely lighten the load and lighten your spirit. And I believe you get more guidance that way, just from spirit. And you owe that to your soul. You owe yourself to live a good and happy life without having bad thoughts going on in your head constantly for something that you may or may not have done. But regardless of what it was, and if it was painful, you shouldn't have to live in pain like that daily, and you know, do drugs and spend tons of money on drugs and get so addictive that you're in a rehab and your family's falling apart because everyone's just trying to save you, and all really you need to do is just speak up what's going on inside, whether it may hurt a family member or not. But just release it, man. Release the beast that's been inside of you and set yourself free. So those are my thoughts, you know, some of the thoughts about that. But anyways, I'm making these videos. I know a lot of people that have been through a lot, and eventually want to start a podcast, and I want to, you know, I want to interview people, and I want people to tell their stories and things that they did that healed them and made them feel better or made them keep on keeping on, whatever it may be. But I just kind of want to bring people together and you know, just kind of show more people light, and just make this world a better place. Yep. All right.